Detroit Den 313. We're back. Little change of scenery. We got a little wow internet situation going on right now. That being said, we're still going to talk this Detroit Lions football. So before we get going, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget the bell icon. Steve, talk to the people, please.
Well, it looks like Will is finally, Chick-fil-A down the street has finally caught on to Will that they've been stealing that he's been stealing their Wi-Fi. So they finally had to kick him off. He had to move locations. He's now in works with McDonald's to get on their Wi-Fi. So we'll be back to our normal routine setup soon. We had a interesting article we saw yesterday afternoon, but it was Super Bowl Sunday. We knew everyone was kind of hanging out with the family, doing the barbecue thing, Super Bowl celebration. But Ian Rappaport reported something very interesting that we kind of raised our eyebrows at, and that is Philadelphia Eagles linebacker Hassan Reddick has been granted permission to seek a trade. And we've been talking all off season. What do we need? Pass rush, cornerback help. One of the league's top pass rushers just became available, kind of. How do you feel about Hassan Reddick?
I think that this automatically means that he's coming to the Lions.
Automatically.
I think that it's automatic. Like, that's what I heard. I heard the deal was already done. So
not even close.
We're just breaking news, guys. No, I'm just playing. But, that's what we get all the time. But listen, this one does, to me, have a little bit of traction to it because of how bad we need a pass rusher. I absolutely love his game. I love his game. 29 years old, will be turning 30. Those guys typically can play until their mid-30s at least, because even when they stop getting the volume, you can bring them in pass rush situations. You can bring them in fourth quarters at the end of the season when you need those guys to go make plays and take a little bit more volume. So I got a question for you. Do you believe he's going to be worth the $20 million price tag? Because he got 1 year left on his contract. So do you think that he's going to be worth $20 million coming in at 30 years old?
I'm not really high on Hassan Reddick. I love what he can do. I love what he brings to the table, but I would rather go out and sign a guy like Brian Burns to $20 million, who's younger, who I can get more juice out of. But Hassan Reddick would fit. He rushes the passer. He plays the position of need. I'm just two things. I'm not giving up draft capital for him. It's going to cost probably a second round pick. I'm not giving up pick 61 for Hassan Reddick. Sorry, just not doing it. Number two, like I said, I think we can go out. If 20 million is the number, I can go out and just go sign Daniil Hunter or Brian Burns, someone of that caliber who's much younger, who I can have under contract control for most of their prime years. I would rather go that route.
I agree with you. It would, to me, unless he was on some type of value deal, which obviously he's not going to be on, I wouldn't want to play him 20 million either. But the thought of having him in Detroit is something that is definitely an interesting thought. And if the numbers made sense, so be it. But I just don't see how it works out. Guy's going to be 30, like we said. Lucky to get 4 elite years out of him. And then after that, it would be a downhill slope. You sign some of these younger guys that are 25, 26 years old, you might get a decade out of that guy, 2 contracts worth out of them. That sounds like a way better deal. I'm leaning more towards draft somebody kind of like you are, or go get somebody else, but definitely worth breaking news because he is a absolute dog.
Yeah, I mean, just since 2020, he's averaged double-digit sacks. 12 and a half sacks with Arizona, 1 year in Carolina, 11, and then 16 and 11 with Philadelphia. So what he does is rush the passer, and we've been saying that that's what we need, but I think the price tag's just too high for this one. And another thing, when a team gives you permission to seek a trade, you can come back and say, hey, I got a second round offer from the Detroit Lions. You guys want to sign the papers and let me go there? Philly's not going to let him leave. Philly's still in that top tier in the NFC. They want to make a move. They have a window. It's not exactly, I don't know if it's closing, but it's open right now. And I think their defense needs some help. They got to get rid of Matt Patricia first and foremost. And I don't know what their defensive coordinator situation is looking like, but I don't see them just letting Hassan Reddick out the door. Like, just because they say you can go seek a trade doesn't mean they have to approve whatever you come back with.
There's some things going on in Philly, though, for whatever reason. Players are not
ugly.
Yeah, players are not happy, and it seems to be an issue that's going around the team. And I wonder if that's a Matt Patricia thing. We saw that in Detroit. A lot of players didn't jive well with Matt Patricia. So it'll be something interesting to follow. And if he wants out of there real bad, even if they do re-sign him, it could be the downhill slide of a Philadelphia Eagles team, regardless. But I don't know. That's just another thought on top of what we're talking about. I'm curious. But to keep it pertinent to the Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles do have a lot of big names on their teams, a lot of sexy names. So they're going to have to, you can't pay everybody. There's something that we talk about in Detroit. When you got these guys who are premier players, or even worst case scenario for them, they got good players that I feel like some of their players, their name is bigger than their game. Not that they have bad games, but their name is elite and they might be really good. So that money, they want that elite money, and there's going to have to be some decisions made.
Yeah, they're kind of in the same boat as us. They got some rookie guys that'll be coming up in the next 2 or 3 years too that they're going to have to pay too. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. They're two big tight. Yeah, like they got some guys that they're going to have to pay real soon. And I don't know exactly what their salary cap number is because I'm not concerned with the Philadelphia Eagles. We want to talk about the Lions salary cap. We're in the ballpark of 60 million, so we have the money to go do it. But like I said, we're kind of in the same boat where we got some rookie deals expiring in the next, within the next 1 to 5 years. We have a lot of guys that we need to re-sign. So that $60 million, like it's nice to have now, but like any good homeowner will tell you, you need to budget your money appropriately for the next X months or X years or whatever you need to do. 60 million, it's fun to go spend, but 3 years from now, you're going to say, dang, a couple years ago, I had $60 million. Now I'm down to 12.
Can I toss a couple questions on my mind at you?
Oh boy.
First things first.
While you got me in your bedroom, you can do whatever you want.
Perfect. So while first things first is, do you think, because a lot of people have put in the comments that we don't truly understand who Brad Holmes is and what he's about. Do you think that Brad Holmes is at a stage of the process of the retooling, rebuilding, preparing this team for greatness, that he will go out and get somebody that's more of a bigger name? Or do you think that that's something that Brad Holmes just isn't into?
Good podcast, just think together, because I had something along the same lines on my questions. Same thing. People putting in a lot of comments about Brad Holmes. That's not his forte. Here's what I see. Sometimes I don't know what Brad Holmes is doing. I don't think anybody really does other than Brad Holmes. I've seen him be very aggressive in the draft, moving up to get guys. But when it comes to free agency and trades, it's been kind of the exact opposite. So I think that's kind of why I'm leaning toward no with Hassan Reddick. Just getting in the mindset of Brad Holmes. This isn't a splash. It's a splashy move, but I think what he does want to do is, like a lot of people say in the comments, and you guys, I'm not saying you guys are wrong. Brad Holmes wants to do the draft. He wants to get these younger guys to come in, develop them, have them for a longer period of time versus something like this scenario, like you said, with Hassan Reddick's age being 30 years old. How long is he really going to have him under control? You said 4 years. I thought that was pretty generous. I could see maybe 2 more years of being elite and then sliding into that 3rd and 12 scenario where he's coming onto the field to rush the passer purely. So Brad Holmes' mindset, I feel like, is aggressive in the draft. Free agency and trades, he's kind of more laid back, more reserved, more calculated. I don't think he's going to make a big splashy move in free agency or drafts, or I'm sorry, free trades. But we could be a little wrong on free agency this year because we've been pretty high on some guys that we really hope he gets. But realistically, I think we need to start looking at some cheaper options.
So I'm at a point to where I believe that it's a process, and I feel like he's left the breadcrumbs in some of his interviews. He's really, really good about being discreet when he talks about his philosophies, and even, like I've mentioned before, the catchphrases that they use and they have on their shirts. But here recently, I feel like with us having more success, he's left more breadcrumbs. He's left more secrets on the table. And I feel like, why would you go out and get a premier name or a premier contract when you are on the bubble of even knowing if you're going to be competing for a Super Bowl? But now that you're competing for a Super Bowl and you may be that piece away from winning a Super Bowl, now I think he's more liable to make a move. He's not an idiot. He doesn't do things without intention. He brings these guys in to take a look at them, right? They're doing due diligence on these guys for a reason. So when one makes sense, he's going to make that move. So I think the Brian Burns, the Daniel Hunters, the Josh Allens, the Jalen Johnsons, the Ladarius Sneeds of the world, one of those guys could very well end up in Detroit because they could be the difference maker in us turning a corner, right? That we're at that stage of the process. So I don't want people to get so caught up in this isn't what Brad Holmes does. This isn't what Brad Holmes does with a bad team. This isn't what Brad Holmes does with the team that's rebuilding. But with a team that could turn the corner with that piece, I think that he will definitely do it. What Brad Holmes, to me, in my opinion, is doing is he's trying to give us a Detroit Lions team that's successful for the next decade. Right? Not that's successful to go try to make a Super Bowl run for 1 to 3 seasons. So to me, if you're watching what's going on, how do you do that? You build this team foundationally through the draft, right? So our core pieces are built through the draft, rookie contracts. Now we get to see who pans out from those rookie deals that we absolutely have to keep. Penei Sewell, can't let him go. It just can't happen. I don't
Hall
know
of
that
Famer.
I don't know that you survive if you let that guy go, right? Aiden Hutchinson, the anchor of this culture to me, right? That guy can't leave, right? But as we talk about other pieces, I think that we're going to see good guys go. We're going to lose those guys in the free agency because we've developed them into Detroit and we developed them well. And they've turned out, even though they were second rounders or third rounders, to be starters in the NFL. And other teams are going to want to give those guys a bag. What are we going to do? We're going to continue to draft guys and develop them so they can step into those guys' role as they move on. As we lose a Tracy Walker, we gain a Ife Melifonwu. You know what I mean? Maybe it took him 3 years to develop, or maybe it took him 2 years to develop and then a year to get healthy to be on the field and show what he could do. But that's what we're doing in this culture. But even with that being said, when you have the money available to be able to get one of these guys who could be a core piece to that culture at a second contract, not a first contract, but a second contract. And I know you got to pay a guy in a second contract, but like you've talked about before, those are proven guys. Those are guys that you're not looking at in the draft and saying, hey, he did this against college boys. Hopefully he can do this against grown men. No, these are guys that you've seen what they can do against grown men. So if you can get a guy like that at 25 years old, and guys, I'm not saying that we do previews and we do cut ups on all of these guys. I'm not saying that we're going to get multiple. I'm not saying that we're going to get Jalen Johnson and Josh Allen. But what I'm saying is I strongly believe that one of these guys may be in Detroit. Then we'll go through the draft. Then we'll get other options. So you might see a situation where you go get a Jalen Johnson and then you see Autry come as well or something like that. You know what I mean? Autry comes on a 1 year or 2 year deal and we make the big signing of a Jalen Johnson. To me, when we talk about the Cam Sutton wasn't really cheap. Like he wasn't paid like a premier shutdown elite corner, but he still got what, 33 million or something like that.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think he's
mean,
making 10, 11 million a year.
you know what I mean? So he went out and made a little bit of a splash move last year when we were on the cusp of needing a secondary. So now, with that still being an issue, I think you could see him go out and pay a Jalen Johnson or a Ladarius Sneed or, like I said, one of these pass rushers, man. I think people are selling Brad Holmes a little short. He's not an idiot, man. He's going through his process.
Yeah, I think what you said in the beginning, his process, when you're not a lot of expectations, your process is different. Now that the season's officially over as of last night, now that it's officially 2024 offseason and free agency starts in a month, and you're a Super Bowl favorite, you're an NFC favorite, your mindset can change. If you're Brad Holmes, you might say, yeah, that's been my philosophy up to this point. Now I need something to go get me over that hump, like you said, and I can change my philosophies. I can go out and sign a big name free agent, and we don't know. Brad Holmes could just say, "I'm going to keep my course. This is what This is what I've been doing. This is what I'm going to keep doing." Or he could say, "I'm more established. This team's in a spot. We have a window. We were a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl. I need one guy who can go out there and rush the passer and be a difference maker late in the game." It just depends. We don't know Brad Holmes. We don't know his mindset. He's one of the best GMs in football, GM of the year, executive of the year. So people are starting to realize this is probably going to be a path that other teams might start to copy. If you're like one of the bottom teams in the NFL, you're going to look at the Lions and say, how did they turn this thing around within 3 years? What did they do? How did they do it? Let's follow their path. Kind of like everyone talked about the Patriot way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Detroit Lions have won anything yet, but this could be the Detroit Lions way of how you build your team, how you at least get competitive, and you can figure out a way to get over that hump later on.
Yeah, I think we're already there, man. I think people are already trying to figure out and mimic the things that we're doing because of the way that this regime and culture and team has been turned around in 3 seasons just phenomenally. And I would say even in 2 seasons, we saw
Yeah.
a major difference,
2 years we
So,
were last year we were in the playoff hunt. We got
yeah,
hot, started out 1-6, and then people started thinking, "Whoa, hey, look at the Lions, something's clicking." We even heard the Chicago Bears reference it. I think it was Justin Fields just this year said, "Hey, yeah, we're in a bad spot, whatever their record was at the time." But he goes, kind of like the Detroit Lions last year when they were 1-6 and going into the last week of the year, they were in a playoff position up until kickoff against Green Bay. So I mean, it's something that other teams are noticing. We just got to. It might be stay the course, or maybe Brad Holmes gets aggressive. We truly don't know.
I think staying the course would be the absolute worst thing that you could do just because now people can prepare for what you're doing. I think every successful organization has adapted to the circumstances that were sitting in front of them. Right? You don't want to come out and be the same team. You don't want to come out and have the same offense. You don't want to come out and have the same defense. You don't want to come out and make the same personnel moves or go after the same players. Because if you do that, then you're predictable. When you're predictable, you're easy to beat. So I think Brad Holmes, if you truly believe in Brad Holmes and you believe that he is as smart and gifted as a lot of people say that he is, then I think we got to believe that something's going to change. He's not just going to sit back, only get players through the draft and not make any moves. Again, like I say that not to say this, and people I put it in the comments, guys, you guys are living in Neverland. They're not going to sign all these guys. We understand that, but we don't know what guy he may sign. So we're going to do our background and our due diligence on all of the guys and talk about why they may fit.
Yeah, we'll find out on March 13th. We're a month away from official free agency. So, like you said, we don't know who they're going to sign. We don't know who their number one target is. It's on a board in the Detroit Lions front office room, though. Hey, if this guy doesn't get franchise tag, this is my guy. This is what I'm paying him. I'm going to get him. I might have to overpay a little bit, but this is the guy that gets me over the hump. This is the guy that gets me playing on Super Bowl Sunday. We don't know. We cover them all. That's what we do. That's our job as YouTubers. Sit here, we talk about a guy, we throw a name out. Does he fit? We're not going to throw out Caleb Williams. We're not going to draft Caleb Williams. He's not going to fall to 29. I would be shocked if the Detroit Lions moved into the top 5 into the draft. So for me personally, I don't see the point in talking about that. It's just we try to keep it realistic here.
Yeah, for
so
sure, man.
Final answer: Hassan Reddick, pass or go out and get him.
I think it's a pass, man. Unless we're living in a world to where he just wanted to be a Lion so bad that he gave us some crazy discount deal, but I don't foresee that happening. So it's a pass for me. I do love the thought of having a guy that's that good, in the pass rush game and can also be an absolute athlete standing up. But I just don't think that it's going to be what the Detroit Lions do. What do you think?
You're in a canoe with a paddle, and I'm right behind you paddling too. I'm in the same boat. I don't see it happening. I'm not overly excited about it. It just kind of, when it happened, it was just like, all right, let's dive into this. Let's look at it. Could he be a fit if the cards fell right? Yes. Am I giving up draft capital for you? No. Am I paying you $20 million when I'm only going to get 2, maybe 3 good years left? No. I'd rather do something with a little younger of a player, draft someone, build it the way Brad Holmes is doing. Free agency, draft. Hasn't made a trade for a player yet. I don't see it happening for Hassan Reddick.
Dig it.
So, guys, we've talked about him, Hassan Reddick. We've talked about some other stuff, how we dive into the college episodes, our draft prospects, our free agency's coming up a month away. We're getting to the grind time of the NFL season. We've only really got a month off from NFL football. So leave a comment down below. Drop some free agent names you want to hear. We've talked about some. If you say a name we've already talked about, go back, check out our previous episodes. Heavy on the draft. We talk about 2 or 3 draft prospects every episode when we do those. Leave a name down below. We go to our comments. We look at names you guys mentioned. Hey, does this guy fit? All right, let's talk about it. So leave it in the comments. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to this channel. We'll be back later with some more content.
Peace.